At 6 in the morning, Victoria Hall came home after working late. She was exhausted, but didn't forget to bring me a bouquet of flowers. She placed the roses by my pillow. As usual, she leaned in to kiss my forehead, but this time, I gently pushed her away and asked for a divorce. Victoria stared at me, completely bewildered. Why? Just because I worked too late? I shook my head. Because at 5 in the morning you sent me a text. The message was short, just one sentence. I love you, honey. The time was 5:07 a.m. The location was tagged at Victoria's company. When I first got the message, I was overjoyed. I was about to reply when a phrase I'd seen online flashed through my mind. A person coming home from a cat cafe will bring their own cat a can of food out of guilt. A cheater will do the same, sending an I love you to the one at home right after their affair. I believed Victoria would never cheat on me. She loved me so much that she would shield me with her own body the instant I was in harm's way. She was incredibly busy with work, so busy she'd forget to eat or drink. Someone like that wouldn't cheat. She didn't have the time to cheat. That's what I told myself. But my hands couldn't resist checking Victoria's social media. Facebook, Instagram, even her work and shopping apps. Everything looked normal. Until 6 in the morning, I noticed a new person in her following list. It was the new intern at her company, Ethan Scott. Victoria had mentioned him a few times. She said he was clumsy and stupid, unable to do anything right. At 5 in the morning, Ethan posted a status update. The most romantic thing in the world is watching the sunrise with the one you love after some intense activity. The early morning sun fell on his young, handsome face. A fair, delicate hand was wrapped around his waist. If that hand hadn't been wearing the wedding ring I shared with Victoria, I might have sighed and thought, to be young is a wonderful thing. In that moment, I already had my answer. But 8 years of history made me choose to deceive myself. I desperately kept searching, hoping to find some clue, anything to tell myself this was all a misunderstanding. People in love are all Sherlock Holmes. I used her phone's location data, her app activity, and the car's mileage records. Bit by bit, I pieced together her movements from the previous night. At 7 p.m., Victoria told me she had to work late and was driving to meet a client. At 8 p.m., the negotiations failed, and Victoria returned to the office to revise the proposal. At 3 a.m., Victoria took Ethan to a 5-star hotel near the office. At 5 a.m., their passion subsided. A satisfied Ethan posted his thoughts about the sunrise, and a guilty Victoria sent me that text message. It was just like the saying I saw online. The owner, back from the cat cafe, felt sorry for their own little cat and opened a can of food for it. Victoria, back from her tryst, felt guilty and sent me that I love you. That bouquet of flowers was the can of cat food she brought me. 2. When I first learned the truth, I was in agony, furious and torn. I considered pretending I hadn't seen anything, to continue living peacefully with Victoria. After all, we had been together for 8 years and had 2 beautiful children. But the moment Victoria walked through the door, the moment I smelled the pungent scent of another man's cologne on her, I knew. I couldn't stomach this lie. And I certainly couldn't tolerate a woman who could cheat at any moment. And so, the word divorce tumbled out of my mouth, without a shred of hesitation. Victoria, unaware of the reason, frowned at me. She rubbed her temples and collapsed onto the sofa, unconcerned. "Can you stop being so dramatic?" "I've been working all day. I'm really tired." I didn't give her a shoulder rub or bring her breakfast as I usually would. Instead, I calmly opened Ethan's social media profile and held the phone in front of her face. More than 20 videos were filled with her presence. There were shots of them walking together under the sunset. There were photos of their hands intertwined in a hot spring. Although her face wasn't visible, after all these years of intimacy, I recognized her instantly. Besides that, there were countless pictures of flowers and luxury goods. The most recent post was from just 10 minutes ago. Ethan was standing in a sea of flowers, flashing a victory sign. A limited edition Richard Mille watch glittered on his wrist in the sunlight. The caption read, "Who says guys can't get flowers?" Ever since I met my boss lady girlfriend, I've been drowning in flowers and gifts, Seeing this, I couldn't hold back anymore. I grabbed those wilted, yellowing roses and threw them in Victoria's face. Did you think I'd be grateful for the flowers someone else didn't want? Did you think I wouldn't recognize you just because you didn't show your face? Victoria, I'm not an idiot, and I don't need your damn garbage. A rose thorn scratched a thin, red line on Victoria's cheek. The sting on her face and the fear in her heart turned her shame into rage. She stared at me for a long moment, then grabbed my wrist. She forcefully ripped the expensive watch from my arm and held it up to my face. Don't you dare give me that attitude. Look down everything you eat, use, wear. Which of it wasn't bought with my money? Without me, could you ever afford a watch this nice? I'm under so much pressure at work. What's wrong with blowing off some steam once in a while? It's not like I didn't come back. If you're so proud, then get the hell out of this house without taking a single cent. The sharp edges of the watch cut my wrist. Bright red blood dripped onto the carpet. I looked at the scene before me and suddenly found it laughable. This watch was Victoria's wedding gift to me. I still remember that day. She kissed the back of my hand reverently and said with a smile, "Honey, thank you for walking this path with me. I told you, one day, I would give you the best of everything. Now I finally can. Back then I thought I was the happiest man in the world. Now I realize the truth. I was just like that little cat in the story, eating someone else's leftovers, wearing a watch someone else didn't want. And I was smugly thinking I was so deeply loved. Anger made tears stream down my face uncontrollably. But the last shred of my pride wouldn't let me back down. I rushed forward and shoved Victoria out the door. What right do you have to kick me out? I roared. This house is my premarital asset. If anyone's getting out, it's you without me. Would you have the empire you have today? Now you want to kick me out to make room for your boy toy? In your dreams and the struggle, Victoria's shirt was accidentally torn open. The series of damning red marks on her skin were like a giant axe, splitting us in two. Realizing her guilt was exposed, Victoria frantically pulled her clothes together. She wanted to explain, but she suddenly stopped. Her gaze fell on the family portrait on the wall, the four of us. She pushed me away and sneered, "What right do you have to ask for a divorce? In this world, besides me, who would want you, you piece of trash who killed his own son?" Her words silenced me in an instant. That unspeakable, unhealable wound was ripped open once more, raw and bleeding. I froze on the spot, the pain so intense I couldn't even find the strength to speak. A satisfied smile spread across Victoria's lips. After muttering an insult, she slammed the door and left, and I couldn't hold on any longer. I collapsed amidst the wreckage, sobbing uncontrollably, until a timid voice cut through my despair. 3. My daughter Mandy was clutching her little bunny, looking at me with fear in her eyes. "Daddy, did you and Mommy have a fight? Are you going to separate? Is Mommy still coming home?" Seeing the terror in her eyes, my heart felt like it was being stabbed. I pulled Mandy into my arms. "I'm sorry, Mandy. Daddy scared you. Go back to sleep for now. I'll take you to school in a little while." Mandy shook her head, looking fearfully at my phone. After a long hesitation, she gently tugged on my sleeve. "Daddy, I've seen that man before, a long, long time ago, on the day my brother died." "What did you say?" My breath caught in my throat. My eyes widened. "Mandy, is there something you know? Tell Daddy what really happened that day." Mandy took a few steps back, her innocent eyes filled with deep fear. Then she suddenly burst into tears and threw herself into my arms, sobbing. That day, Mommy brought that man home. Mommy said she was going to play a game with the man and that my brother and I weren't allowed to bother them. The man gave us 2 liquor-filled chocolates and locked us in the room. After brother ate the chocolate, he started crying that he was in pain, and then he just fell on the floor and didn't move. I was so scared. I cried and banged on the door, shouting for Mommy, but she was too busy playing her game with the man. She wouldn't listen to me no matter what. And then brother was gone. Mommy said it was our secret, and I wasn't allowed to tell anyone. If I told, she wouldn't want me anymore. "Daddy, I'm sorry. Mandy isn't a bad kid who lies. Mandy was just scared." I stood there, stunned, not knowing how to react. It felt like a knife was twisting in my gut. Ronnie's death was a pain that I and both our families would carry for a lifetime. 2 years ago, a client urgently called me for a meeting. To secure that crucial contract for the company, I had to leave Ronnie and Mandy with a babysitter and drive off alone. When I returned, the babysitter was gone. The room was filled with the sound of Mandy's wailing and the sight of Ronnie's stiff, cold body. The doctor said Ronnie had died from an allergic reaction after accidentally eating a liquor-filled chocolate. If he had been brought in just 10 minutes earlier, he could have been saved. My own mother couldn't bear the shock and died from a heart attack. My mother-in-law, Eleanor, unleashed all her fury on me. She grabbed me by the neck and slapped me dozens of times, calling me a murderer over and over. "You despicable person. How could you leave 2 small children at home alone? Are you even human? You knew Ronnie was allergic to alcohol. Why did you buy those chocolates? Did you do it on purpose? Did you intentionally try to kill my grandson? You're a murderer. A killer. I want you to pay for my grandson's life." Eleanor's relatives beat and kicked me, looking like they wanted to tear me limb from limb. At that critical moment, Victoria arrived. She didn't hesitate to shield me with her body, confronting everyone. "Ronnie's death was an accident. It's not Sincere's fault. As long as I'm here, you will never hurt him." To me, the Victoria of that day was like a towering hero, protecting me from all harm. Later, she took me to a therapist. She stayed by my side, helping me slowly emerge from the shadow of Ronnie's death. But the successive blows left me with lifelong psychological trauma. I couldn't work anymore. I couldn't live a normal life. I was constantly haunted by dreams of Ronnie, terrified that Mandy would suffer a similar fate. Victoria persuaded me to quit my job and take care of the children at home. After much thought, I gave up the career I had spent years building and became a stay-at-home dad. Fortunately, Mandy was a sweet and understanding child, and although Victoria was busy with work, she treated me with immense respect and love. Over the years, despite my regrets, I felt lucky to have found a partner I could spend my life with, to have a relatively happy family. But I never imagined that one day Victoria would use Ronnie's death to wound me, and I never ever imagined that it was Victoria's affair that had killed our son. It was her who shifted the blame onto me, using my guilt to trap me at home, away from the company. It was her who destroyed my family and ruined my life's happiness. The relentless shocks turned my pain into numbness. I closed my eyes, feeling close to despair. I patted Mandy's back, gently comforting her, telling her not to be afraid. I told her I would never ever blame her, and I told myself, I will make Victoria Hall and Ethan Scott pay the price they deserve. 4. I dropped Mandy off with my good friend James and drove to a law firm. While drafting the divorce agreement, I consulted the lawyer about Ronnie's case. The lawyer told me that too much time had passed. Without concrete evidence, it would be very difficult to convict Victoria. If that was the case, I would have to use my own methods to get justice for Ronnie. I took the divorce papers and drove to Victoria's company. Stepping into this familiar place after so many years, I felt a profound sense of alienation. Before I could even process my feelings, the receptionist stopped me. "I'm sorry, sir. You can't enter without an appointment. I'm Victoria Hall's husband. I need to see her." The receptionist looked me up and down, a mocking smile on her face. "Sorry, but everyone here knows that Ethan Scott, her secretary, is our boss's boyfriend. I contacted my old colleagues and friends. Only then did I learn that everyone I was close to had been fired by Victoria. She had imprisoned me at home with guilt, while using money and power to build a kingdom for herself and Ethan. An overwhelming wave of disgust washed over me. Just as I was about to call Victoria, Ethan appeared. The acrid smell of his cologne hit me first. He straightened his clothes, looking at me with a meaningful smirk. "You're here for Victoria, right? Well, never mind. She's resting. You can just tell me what you want to say." Ethan led me to his office. He got straight to the point, telling me Victoria was pregnant. "Just over 3 months. The doctor says it's a boy." Victoria is thrilled. She said she'll divorce you before the baby is born. I silently turned on my phone's voice recorder, capturing Ethan's non-stop monologue. Ethan told me many things. He said Victoria was never as busy as she claimed, she just didn't want to see me. He said they had known each other for a long, long time. On Valentine's Day, she told you she was on a business trip. In reality, she took me to Bali for a vacation. She just bought you some cheap souvenirs from the airport to shut you up. Last year, when you were in that car accident, she said she was working overtime. In reality, she was with me. And last month, when you were hospitalized for appendicitis, Ethan's smile widened. Victoria had the doctor give you a double dose of anesthetic just so she could be with me. While you were unconscious and in pain, we were having fun in the room right next to yours. But that's nothing. The most thrilling time was on the anniversary of your son's death. Victoria didn't even have time to change her clothes before she rushed over to find me. While we were going at it, the memorial photo of your son was sitting on our bedside table. Looking at Ethan's triumphant expression, I could no longer contain the rage burning inside me. I grabbed the hot water from the desk and threw it in his face. Before I could even put the cup down, Victoria burst into the room. She shoved me aside and held Ethan protectively. "Sincere, what are you doing? If you have a problem, take it out on me. What kind of man bullies a young guy like him?" The flames of my anger threatened to consume me whole. I stared silently at the woman before me, this woman who once stood in front of me, shielding me from storms and silencing all rumors. Now she stood against me, protecting her lover. The heartache had long been replaced by numbness. I wiped the water from my hands, looked up at Victoria, and said coldly, "It seems you don't know what real bullying is." With that, I grabbed Ethan by the hair and slammed his head against the marble floor. Then, I kicked Victoria hard in the abdomen. Before they could react, I picked up the fruit knife from the desk and walked slowly toward the two of them as they writhed in pain. 5. The sharp tip of the knife glinted coldly in the light. My voice grew colder with each word. "Victoria, did you really think I was a pushover? Have you forgotten how this business was built? Let me tell you, the ground you stand on, the assets in your name, everything you have, it came from me. And what I can give, I can also take away." As I advanced, Ethan's expression shifted from anger to terror. He scrambled backward, his voice trembling. "Someone, help, call the police, there's a madman in here. Get him." Victoria tried to get up to shield Ethan, but the sharp pain in her abdomen made her face turn pale, and she couldn't move an inch. I grabbed Ethan's wrist and pressed the fruit knife against his face. "Weren't you so arrogant just a moment ago? Weren't you so proud to be Victoria's boy toy? Now I'll give you two choices. First, I cut up your face and all the money Victoria spent on you. All the gifts she bought you. We'll call it compensation. I won't ask for any of it back. Second, you get the hell out of my sight and wait to see me in court. And you will return every single cent. Victoria and I were self-made. Deep down, we both had a fearless, almost crazy streak. In the early days, business was tough, with shady characters everywhere. Theft, robbery, fraud, it was all part of the game. We had been through it all. The worst time, Victoria and I were on our way to pick up a shipment when muggers on bikes stole $20,000 in cash from us. I chased them on my motorcycle, got 3 broken ribs in the process, but I fought and got the money back. On the way back, I couldn't hold on any longer and crashed, bike and all, into a river. When they pulled me out, I was still clutching that bag of money, refusing to let go. I still remember that day. Victoria cried like a child. She held my hand and said, "Sincere, you're such a fool. If something happened to you, what would I do?" She said if I didn't wake up, she wouldn't want to live anymore. She said she would work hard to give me a good life. After that incident, I started building connections with people from all walks of life, both high and low, and became more cautious in my dealings. Victoria, however, became more and more reckless. Working through the night was routine for her. To close a deal, she would drink until her stomach bled. Through that sheer effort, the company began to thrive, and we became financially comfortable. We got married, had a pair of wonderful children, life got better and better. But the time Victoria spent at home became less and less. I thought it was because she was too busy with work. I thought Ronnie's death was still weighing heavily on her heart. I thought I wasn't doing enough. Who could have known that her heart had long since left me? The mountain of money we built had separated us into two different worlds, and Ronnie's death was the uncrossable chasm between us. On her side, she lived a life of debauchery, spending her nights with Ethan. On my side, I raised our daughter, repenting day after day, mourning our dead son. So I cannot forgive her. I will not forgive her. I must make Victoria pay. I must make her understand just how much pain I'm in. I pressed the knife a little closer to Ethan's face, drawing a thin red line. As a bead of blood rolled down, Ethan's eyes filled with tears, and his voice trembled. I'll pay it back. I'll pay you back. Please, I'm begging you, don't hurt me. I'll make Victoria get rid of the baby. We'll never see each other again. Please, don't cut my face. I raised my hand, rubbing my slightly sore wrist. Then I turned to Victoria. See? Your young lover isn't as devoted to you as you thought. He cares more about this face than he does about you. With this face he can find a second, a third rich woman like Victoria. Without this face, not even Victoria would give him a second glance. How could there be true love between a woman in her 30s and a college student in his early 20s? There's no such thing as deep, abiding love in this world. It's just people brought together by profit who will scatter when the profit is gone. Victoria had recovered slightly from the pain, her face not as pale as before. She stared at me through gritted teeth. What do you really want? What do I want? I laughed. The words came without a thought. I want you and this bastard to die a miserable death 6. Victoria stared at me for a long time, and then for the first time in forever she lowered her head. Her voice was full of resignation. I was heartbroken about Ronnie's death too, but we can't bring back the dead. We have to think about the living. Have you ever thought about how much this will hurt Mandy? Can we please stop this? You apologize to Ethan, we each take a step back, and we can pretend none of this ever happened. Ethan won't threaten your position. If you want, I can have the baby call you Dad. Think of it as a small compensation. She killed my son, and now she wants me to raise her lover's child. I almost laughed out loud at Victoria's shameless audacity. I threw the divorce papers in her face. Stop dreaming. We've been together for so many years, you should know me better than that. I am not a little cat you keep at home, living off your scraps by acting cute. I've been a madman since I was a child. When I was 18, my father had an affair and left my mother. My mother refused to accept the divorce, hoping every day that he would come back. After he left, she spent her days crying over the divorce papers, literally crying herself into a heart condition. From that day on, I swore to myself that I would never become like my mother. I would never live such a pathetic life. I fought my way up, graduated top of my class, got into a top university, and that's where I met Victoria. She told me we were kindred spirits. Her father had abandoned her and her mother for another woman when she was very young. She had suffered immensely at the hands of her stepmother and her father's new family. She swore she would never become like her father. She swore she would give me a happy future. We both hated cheaters and homewreckers with a passion. We both yearned for a warm, stable family. Two lonely, wounded souls who had no one else found each other. We worked so hard to get to where we are. And now, just as life was finally getting good, Victoria single-handedly destroyed the happiness we had painstakingly built. She had become a despicable person, even worse than her own father. Thinking of this, I looked at Victoria coldly and said slowly, I told you, I'm not just divorcing you, I'm going to ruin you. Fine, you asked for this. Don't you regret it, her persuasion having failed? Victoria tried to call the police again. I smashed her phone before she could and stormed out. As I was leaving, I looked back at Victoria and Ethan. I said, word for word, today is just the beginning. From now on, I will use every means at my disposal to make you regret what you did. I will make you live every single day of the rest of your lives in pain and remorse. With that, I dropped the fruit knife and turned to leave. My good friend James Goodwin was waiting for me downstairs with Mandy. When he saw me, he honked the horn loudly. After getting in the car, I first kissed my daughter's little face, then looked at James. Thank God for you. Thank God I didn't abandon all my old friends because of Victoria. Victoria thought that just because I gave up my career, she could control me. She forgot that in business, connections are more important than money. I was a stay-at-home dad for a few years, but that doesn't mean I gave up my entire life. People who have lived through hard times always have a sense of preparing for the worst, even in times of peace. James patted my shoulder and asked a few simple questions. I finally had the chance to sort through the whole story. After listening to my account, he was silent for a long time. I really never thought Victoria was that kind of person. If she refuses to divorce, I'll be by your side for the court battle. I've watched Ronnie and Mandy grow up. Even the cruelest beast doesn't harm its own young. How could Victoria's heart be so vicious? I waved my hand dismissively. What's so strange about it? Women. You can't rely on them. For me, Ronnie and Mandy were my everything. For Victoria, they were just inconsequential children she had with a man she no longer loved. But I'm different. Ronnie and Mandy are treasures given to me by heaven, treasures I will love for my entire life. Now Ronnie is gone. Not only must I protect my Mandy, but I must also take back every penny of this fortune. I will never allow that homewrecker's child to inherit a single dime. I'll need you to look after Mandy for a while. I don't trust anyone else. Don't worry. She's my goddaughter. I'll make sure nothing happens to her. James ruffled Mandy's hair, his eyes filled with determination. But I couldn't relax. Married for 8 years, together for 15. Victoria and I had been part of nearly each other's entire adult lives. 1,000 threads bound us together. Separating would be like being skinned alive. But I knew that things had come to this. No matter how hard or painful it was, I had to see it through. 7. After leaving James, I drove to the IRS. I personally reported Victoria's company for tax evasion, freezing all its accounts. Next, I sold everything of Victoria's that I could. I paid a hefty sum to have major online influencers live stream the sordid details of Victoria's affair 24/7. Armies of online trolls flooded the comment sections. Overnight, the boss lady girlfriend became the cheating wife. Ethan's social media accounts were dug up, and his personal information was plastered all over the internet. The once enviable model couple became a reviled pair of adulterers. The company's official website was inundated with angry comments. The company's stock price plummeted. I contacted my old clients and friends, offering to pay double the penalty for them to cancel their contracts. The moment Victoria finished dealing with the IRS, I reported her for fire code violations. The moment Victoria secured a new deal, I immediately sabotaged another one of her business ventures. In just 1 month, a large portion of her multi-million-dollar assets had evaporated. It wasn't just the company's senior partners who were getting antsy. Her relatives who depended on her for their livelihood were also panicking. They came in groups to persuade me, telling me to make Victoria apologize. My phone was flooded with their messages. Some played good cop, some played bad cop. They were all trying to force me to back down, to swallow my disgust and continue the marriage. Everyone has their weaknesses. Just turn a blind eye and let it go. It's normal for couples to have bumps in the road. Why make it such a public spectacle? The child is still young. For the sake of the child, stop this. As a father, you can't be so selfish. If not for yourself, at least think about your child. Even my mother-in-law, Eleanor, who usually did nothing but curse at me, sent a rare message. Ronnie's death was an accident. You can't put all the blame on Victoria. As a mother, she's already suffered enough. You need to learn to share her burden. With your situation, finding a wife like my daughter is a blessing you should be grateful for. After a divorce, you'll be left with a burdensome child, a deadweight. What kind of good woman do you think you'll find then? When the blame was on me, she called me a murderer and wished I were dead. Now that Victoria was the one at fault, she wanted to brush it all away as a simple misunderstanding. There's no such thing as a free pass in this world. I was so annoyed that I simply blocked everyone. After hiding like a coward for a while, Victoria finally couldn't take it anymore and actively sought me out to make peace. I hadn't seen her in a few days, and strands of white hair had appeared at her temples. She rubbed her reddened eyes, her gaze complicated as she looked at me. "Sincere, I never thought you could be so ruthless." I took a sip of my coffee, my voice calm and cold. "A woman who killed her own flesh and blood thinks I'm the one who's ruthless." "I told you, Ronnie's death was an accident," Victoria snapped, her voice becoming urgent as she scrambled to explain. "I was heartbroken after Ronnie died too. That's why I did everything I could to make you and Mandy happy, to give you the best of everything, to work hard so you could have a better life. But I was just so tired. I needed a release too. I needed to let off steam. Being with Ethan, it was really just a moment of impulse. He's so young, so full of life. When I'm with him, I feel like I've gone back in time. Sincere, I didn't mean to kill Ronnie, and I didn't mean to hurt you. I just didn't know how to face you. I was afraid you'd be angry. I didn't want to lose you." With that, Victoria covered her face and began to cry. Tears streamed through her fingers, crocodile tears. I watched her silently. For a moment I couldn't tell if she had become corrupted by money, or if the money had simply revealed her true nature. After all, the betrayal was real, but the feelings at the beginning were also real. The first time Victoria cried in front of me was right after we got married. She had used all her savings to buy us a pair of wedding rings. She hugged me and said she would spend her whole life being good to me, that we should never separate, no matter what. The tears on her face shone brighter than the diamond on her hand, but later she used that same hand, the one with the diamond ring, to embrace another man. And her tears became nothing more than a prop for her act. I stood up and slowly poured the coffee in my hand over Victoria's head. "Can you stop the act? Before I came to see you, I couldn't understand how we ended up here. Now I understand. It's because deep down in your bones, you are a rotten person, just like your father who abandoned his wife and child for another woman. You both have the same hypocritical and selfish blood running through your veins. Victoria Hall doesn't love anyone. She doesn't love me, she doesn't love Ronnie or Mandy, and she certainly doesn't love Ethan Scott. She just needed a man willing to endure hardship to build an empire with her, and she needed a young, handsome boy toy to satisfy her vanity. The only person she cares about is herself. For the past 8 years I was blind and loved the wrong person. For the next few decades I will never allow myself to make the same mistake." I looked at Victoria coldly. "Leave with nothing, and I might let you go. If you don't agree, then we'll see each other in court." 8. Victoria ran to Mandy's preschool, trying to use our daughter to get me to take her back. Before she could even open her mouth, James cursed her out and sent her away. With a scorched earth mentality, I continued my campaign of retaliation against Victoria. The company's business plummeted. Years of hard work went down the drain. Her mother, Eleanor, was hospitalized from the stress. Under the onslaught of blows, Victoria had no choice but to surrender. The day she signed the divorce papers, she suddenly asked me, "Will I ever be able to see Mandy again? Given your past actions concerning Ronnie, I have already applied for a restraining order from the court. From now on, you are not allowed to be near her." Victoria's hand paused as she was signing. A single tear fell, smudging the unfinished signature. After a long hesitation, she asked again, then, "Can I still see you?" The only answer she received was unending silence. After signing the papers, Victoria let out a long sigh, seeming to age decades in an instant. She wanted to say something more, but her phone suddenly rang. "Mess Hall, it's terrible. Ethan Scott forged your signature and took all the money from your safe. He's completely disappeared. No one can contact him." What Victoria called Ethan dozens of times, but the calls went straight to voicemail. Amidst the dial tone, her face grew paler and paler. Finally, she collapsed to the floor, completely drained of strength. I watched Victoria's devastated state and couldn't help but sneer inwardly. A while ago, Ethan had come to me to pay back the money, to scrape together the millions. He had sold all his jewelry and sneakers and had gone deep into debt. I saw his reluctance and accidentally let slip the combination to Victoria's private safe. I didn't expect Ethan to act so quickly. After being with her for so many years, I knew Victoria all too well. A person as selfish as her would never agree to leave with nothing. She had already prepared a way out for herself, capital to make a comeback. But I would never let her succeed. I had to make sure she was trapped in the mud, never to climb out again. I savored the sight of Victoria's suffering with satisfaction. Then I took the signed divorce agreement and left. The moment the car started, Victoria, having snapped out of her daze, suddenly ran after me. For her, in that moment, I was her only lifeline. She pounded on my car window until her hands were raw and bleeding. Sincere, I know I was wrong. Please give me one more chance. Think about our past. Think about our daughter. We were so happy once. How can you erase everything between us because of one small mistake? It was all Ethan's fault. He seduced me. I know I was wrong. I'll go get rid of the baby right now. I swear I'll never make the same mistake again. Please, I'm begging you. Forgive me one more time. She wept hysterically, trying to use her tears and our past to stop me from leaving. But the roar of the engine drowned out all of her pleas. I slammed my foot on the gas, completely ignoring the sounds behind me. Victoria started chasing the car, running. She fell and got up again and again, until she finally disappeared from view. I called James and asked him to bring Mandy over for hot pot. He asked with a smile, "Is it all taken care of?" I smiled back. "All taken care of. Let the rotten people and rotten things stay in yesterday. From now on, I'll live a good life, with Mandy by my side." 3 months before the wedding, to save up for a more expensive jewelry set for my fiancée, I was pulling all-nighters, working part-time gigs, even taking on delivery jobs. Today, I fought tooth and nail to snag a high-tip order, an express delivery of a proposal bouquet. The address was the new condo I had bought for my fiancée. When I rushed over, I found her and her childhood acquaintance locked in a passionate kiss. Someone laughed and asked, "Aren't you afraid your lapdog boyfriend will get mad?" My fiancé frowned. "He already has the rest of my life. For these last 3 months, I need to fulfill my own regrets." I smiled, personally handing her the flowers and offering my blessing. "In that case, don't leave any regrets. I wish you a long and happy life together." Chapter 1. Sincere Miller, is that you? Why are you working as a courier? Wait, are you following me? A flash of panic crossed Victoria Vaughn's eyes as she fired off questions, but her hand remained tightly intertwined with Ethan Shaw's. I didn't hear a single word she said. My head was buzzing and my chest felt so tight I could barely breathe. The bouquet was getting crushed in my grip. I fought to control my emotions and looked at Victoria, hoping she would give me an explanation. Why was the woman I had loved for 8 years proposing to another man behind my back? And that man was Ethan, someone she had always insisted she saw as a little brother. And what was this regret she was talking about? The once lively atmosphere fell silent. Under everyone's stares, Victoria looked uncomfortable. She snatched the bouquet from my hand, her voice laced with anger. "We were just acting for a video. What's with the sarcastic attitude? You've ruined the whole mood. Now we have to shoot that scene all over again." My face darkened, and I asked through gritted teeth, "What kind of proposal scene requires you to star in it personally, and to film it here? This is our new home, not yours and his. What's yours? Mine or his? Ethan is my brother, and you're his brother-in-law. What's the big deal if we use it for a bit? Why are you being so petty all of a sudden? If you can't stand it, then leave. I specifically chose today because I knew you'd be working overtime. Who knew you'd suddenly show up?" My mouth opened, but no words came out. I had worked up a sweat rushing over, but now an icy chill washed over me. My fists clenched. I turned my head and my eyes were drawn to a pile of colorful shards on the floor. Realizing what it was, I hurried over and pushed aside the confetti from the party poppers, revealing a shattered vase. It was the souvenir vase we had made together on our first anniversary, with our names and the date engraved on it. When we were decorating the new place, I had put it in the most prominent spot. Because it was our first time trying pottery, the vase was far from perfect, but it marked the beginning of our love. Now the scattered pieces on the floor were a stark reminder that our long journey together was ending in failure. Seeing this, Victoria pursed her lips and softened her tone slightly. "Okay, I'm sorry. I was just on edge and took it out on you. The vase, we got too into the scene, and Ethan accidentally knocked it over. You can just buy a new one later." Ethan, standing behind her, stepped forward, subtly positioning himself in front of Victoria, a triumphant look he couldn't hide in his eyes. "Sincere, don't blame Sis V. She was just trying to help me out. Don't worry, I'll clean everything up before I leave." I let out a bitter laugh and asked in a low, unwilling voice, "Don't you remember what this was?" Victoria, however, was just toying with her hair and said casually, "It was just an ugly vase. I've been meaning to ask why you hadn't thrown it out yet. It's better that it's broken." It felt like a giant hole had been stabbed through my heart, a numbing pain spreading through me. A single tear fell onto a porcelain shard. She had forgotten long ago. I was the only one cherishing that memory. Victoria was my first love, a woman I had pursued for 5 years. She told me she felt insecure about love. So I scrimped and saved, and at the beginning of the year I finally bought a small condo, paid in full, under her name. She then accepted my proposal. I was ecstatic for a long time. I visited numerous jewelry stores and picked out a pricey gold set, planning to surprise her with it on our wedding day. I never thought she'd be the one to surprise me first. They started their so-called proposal scene again, watching her hold the flowers with a shy expression, professing her love for Ethan. I felt like the clown in this farce. Noticing my gaze, Ethan shot me a provocative glance, then swept Victoria into his arms, spun her around a few times, and kissed her again. 8 years of love, so much effort, all for this. Suppressing my emotions, I quietly turned and walked away. If they want to get married, let them. I don't want this fiancé anymore. Chapter 2. I returned to my apartment alone when my best friend Gavin Price called. "Congrats, bro, you finally made it." My throat was dry. I thought he'd heard about my engagement from someone and was calling to congratulate me. Just as I was about to say something, he continued, "How come only your girlfriend posted on Instagram? I don't see anything from you. And she didn't even show your faces. If I hadn't recognized the rings you asked me about, I wouldn't have known it was you. Have you been short on cash lately because you're getting ready for the wedding? I've got a project I can outsource to you. You keep the profits. Think of it as a wedding gift from me." Confused, I cut him off. I quickly opened Instagram and saw a new post from Victoria. There were no faces, just the shadows of 2 people embracing sweetly on the wall. The caption read, "Love is worth capturing." I stared at my phone, at the matching rings I had so carefully chosen now on another man's hand. My chest heaved. Nothing hurts more than being betrayed by the one you love most. In that moment, I truly felt like my 8 years of devotion had been thrown to the dogs. Victoria never liked me posting anything about her on social media. Since we started dating, we had never taken a single photo together. On the day I proposed, I begged her to post just once for me, but she told me, "Couples who show off break up fast. It's better if we just live our lives quietly." She even took my ring, saying, "This is too expensive to get scratched up. Let me keep it safe and I'll bring it out on our wedding day." At the time, I thought she was just trying to protect our relationship, unwilling to share it with others. How ridiculous that seems now. Perhaps it was just because, in her eyes, I wasn't someone worth capturing. I took a deep breath and quickly explained the situation to Gavin, who listened while cursing her out and trying to comfort me. "That startup idea you mentioned before, is it too late for me to join, to build a stable home with Victoria?" I had turned down my friend's business proposals multiple times, content to stay in the city where she worked. Now, there was no reason to stay. Of course not out of our whole dorm. You had the best tech skills. If it wasn't for Victoria, never mind. We're heading to Crestwood next week to scout a new office location. You should come along and get familiar with things. If we decide on it, that's where we'll be focusing our business. After finalizing the details with my friend, my phone buzzed with a notification that my delivery order was complete. Victoria had tipped me $20 along with a message. "Don't be mad. Go buy yourself something nice to eat. I'll make it up to you tomorrow." I didn't cash it out, I just uninstalled the app. I didn't want this kind of charity. Chapter 3. A second later, I received a Venmo transfer from Victoria, and a message from her. Sincere Miller, why didn't you wait for me? Why did you leave on your own? Anyway, use this money to buy yourself some late-night snacks. I'll explain everything that happened tonight tomorrow. But what was there to explain? The events of the evening were seared into my mind. I moved my finger over the block button, hesitated for a few seconds, then returned to the chat window. I typed and deleted "let's break up" over and over. Finally, frustrated, I tossed my phone aside and lay on the sofa in a daze, looking around the room. My tiny 200-square-foot rental was filled with her photos. An 8-year relationship isn't something you can just sever in an instant. Before breaking up, there were things I had to understand. If I was going to lose, I needed to lose with my eyes open. I ended up falling asleep on the sofa like that. Early the next morning, there was a loud banging on the door. "Sincere Miller, open up." "Why is the door locked?" Rubbing my aching forehead, I squinted at my phone. It wasn't even 6 a.m. I sighed and opened the door for Victoria, only to find Ethan Shaw there too. He was pressed up close behind Victoria, looking fragile and innocent. "Sincere Miller, what's wrong with you? Didn't you know I was coming back? You don't answer your phone, and you lock the door." I've practically shouted my throat raw. Victoria complained non-stop. At the same time, she led Ethan by the hand into my living room, had him sit down and started getting him tea and water, just like I used to do for her. Noticing my silence, Victoria's hand paused as she poured the water, and she explained, "Our wedding is just for show. Ethan's mother has terminal liver cancer, and her last wish is to see him settled down." Then she glanced at Ethan, put a hand on my arm, and lowered her voice. "Besides, Ethan was recently diagnosed with stage 2 stomach cancer. If he can't fulfill his mother's wish, I'm worried it will affect his mood for the treatment ahead." I frowned slightly and pulled my arm away. I looked at the rosy-cheeked Ethan and smirked. If I hadn't seen the table full of red wine, sashimi, and barbecue last night, I might have actually believed her. Once, I developed stomach problems from working overtime and pulling all-nighters. I was in so much pain that I fell down the stairs, hitting my head and bleeding. I called her, only to get a cold reply. "It's just a little bump, you'll be fine. I'm in the middle of something important, don't bother me." In the end, it was a neighbor who found me lying on the floor and called an ambulance for me. Afterward, she never once asked about my condition. Instead, she was angry at me for a long time because I couldn't pick her up from work. Later, I saw from Ethan's social media what that important thing was. She had gone to a basketball game with him. It turns out, you can see the difference between love and non-love in the small details of life. I was just blinded by love back then. Ethan suddenly started coughing violently, his face flushing red, though he couldn't suppress the smirk on his lips. "Sincere, don't worry. We're just getting fake married. Sis V is still yours." I ignored him. My gut told me this wasn't the answer I was looking for. The real answer was in her regret. "Victoria, you're still not telling the truth. Tell me about that regret. Maybe then I can understand." Chapter 4. Victoria froze, her face a mask of conflict as if she were fighting a final internal battle. After a long moment, she finally spoke. "Because the person I wanted to marry most when I was little was Ethan's older brother, Elias Shaw. My family was very traditional and favored boys. I was often hungry and had to do a lot of chores, but his brother would secretly give me food and help me with my work. He was such a kind boy, but he didn't live past the age of 10. Looking at Ethan's calm expression, it was clear he knew all of this. I gave a bitter laugh and asked her, "So I was his replacement? Have you felt nothing for me at all these past 8 years?" Victoria frowned. "Don't be so dramatic. His brother was only 10 when he died. How could I treat you as his stand-in? You've been very good to me too. I've never had to do any housework, you're willing to give me money, and you put the condo in my name. I was perfectly willing to marry you. Don't worry, the person I love now is you. Once Ethan gets better, I'll settle down and live a good life with you." I couldn't help but laugh out loud. So Victoria knew I was good to her. For 8 years I took care of everything, big and small, at home. I did my best to meet all her demands. The reason she could so casually downplay her cheating now was that she was taking my kindness for granted, because in her eyes it was all to be expected. She said she loved me, but it was more accurate to say she just enjoyed what I did for her. I brought all of this on myself with the question in my heart answered. I suddenly felt a sense of release about this relationship. Seeing that I wasn't arguing, Victoria relaxed and continued, "Sincere Miller, Elias is gone. I can't just watch his younger brother die so young too. When you proposed to me, you said you would listen to me from now on. Since you know everything now, it's not too much to ask for you, as his brother-in-law, to look after him, right? Ethan will be living with us for a while. If you mind him staying at the new place, then you can pack your things and give him your room here." Then she picked up a food container from the side. "Oh, right. You didn't wait for us last night, so Ethan urged me to come back and check on you this morning. Your stomach is weak, so I went out of my way to buy you some fish chowder from the corner diner before coming over. It's still hot. We're going to pick out a wedding dress later. You should come with us." I quickly waved my hands. "No need. Your wedding has nothing to do with me. Victoria, let's break up." Chapter 5. Victoria's smile vanished. Her brow furrowed in annoyance. "Sincere Miller, didn't I just explain everything clearly? And you still want to break up with me?" Ethan, who had been sitting on the side, suddenly stood up and knelt before me, grabbing my pant leg. Disgusted, the moment he touched me, my anger flared and I kicked him away forcefully. He fell to the ground dramatically, then started beating his chest, not forgetting to sneak a glance at Victoria's expression before he did. "Sincere, hit me if it makes you feel better, just don't break up with Sis V. This is all my fault. It's all because I'm a loser who can't find a wife. I might as well just go die with my mom." The next second, something hit my back hard. The scalding hot chowder soaked through my clothes, and my skin quickly turned red. Victoria rushed over to stop Ethan, her voice filled with concern as she roared at me. "Enough. Sincere Miller. Have you made enough of a scene? He's a patient. If anything happens to him, I'll hold you responsible with the two of them putting on this act. I was the one who looked like the bad guy." I couldn't help but sneer. I wanted a family, that much was true, but I had no interest in being a total sucker. Taking a deep breath, I looked coldly at the two of them on the floor. "Victoria, let me make this clear today. We're breaking up. The money I gave you in the past, I don't want it back. But the condo was for our wedding. Since we're not getting married, you need to find a time to transfer the title back to me." The mention of the condo seemed to hit a nerve. Victoria shrieked, "Sincere Miller, do you have any conscience? I gave you 8 years of my youth, and now you're using the condo to threaten me. No wonder you were responsible for your parents' death. You've been selfish since you were a child. The reason you have nightmares every night is because of your guilty conscience." My breath caught in my throat. My hands clenched into fists as I glared at her, the disappointment in my eyes deepening. My parents' death was a lifelong wound. As a child, I had been throwing a tantrum, demanding a toy. To get it before the store closed, my parents rushed out on a rainy night and got into a car accident. I was the only survivor. Whenever it stormed, I would remember the image of my parents dying horribly in front of me. Because I cared about Victoria, I had shared my pain with her without reservation. Now she was using it as a weapon to defend Ethan and stab me in the heart. Suppressing my rage, I yelled, "Shut up and get out of my house right now," startled. Victoria froze for a moment, then stared at me with red-rimmed, resentful eyes. "Sincere Miller, even if we break up, you can forget about getting the condo back, or I'll fight you to the death. And you'd better not regret this. We'll see how you come crawling back to me, Ethan. Let's go." Leaning on Victoria, Ethan slowly got to his feet, a glint in his eyes. After they left, I went to my room to treat the burn on my back with some ointment. When I came out, I noticed Victoria had left her purse behind. So I packed up everything of hers in the apartment into trash bags and took them downstairs, along with her purse. I found the two of them still standing at the bottom of the building. Their faces were flushed and they were breathing heavily. Clearly, something had just happened. Ethan had his arm around Victoria's waist and asked tentatively, "Sis 5, Sincere actually wants the condo back? Doesn't that mean you wasted all these years on him?" Victoria pouted and said defiantly, "Don't worry. It's not the first time we've fought. He's just angry. In a few days I'll give him an easy way out, and he'll come crawling back like he always does." As she finished, she looked up and saw me standing in the stairwell. She guiltily pushed Ethan away. Seeing the bags in my hand, her expression shifted to one of "I knew it," and she turned her head away haughtily. I let out a derisive laugh. Right in front of them, I threw the trash bags, purse and all, into the dumpster. Victoria's face went from white to green, and she started screaming curses, but I just walked away without a backward glance. Garbage belongs in the trash can. That goes for food, and for love, too. Chapter 6. Because of all this mess, I contacted Gavin Price and moved up our business trip. Over the next few days, my phone was flooded with angry messages from Victoria's friends, all scolding me, saying a grown man shouldn't doubt Victoria's love for me, especially after she'd been with me for 8 years. They kept trying to vouch for her, insisting that she and Ethan were completely innocent, a bunch of blatant liars. They were the ones who had been cheering the loudest that night. I blocked them all. At the same time, I messaged my lawyer, telling him to speed up the lawsuit to get the property title back. That day from my apartment, I had overheard Ethan repeatedly asking Victoria about the condo. The way he looked at her wasn't the look of someone in love. It was hard not to suspect that he was after the condo. After sending the message, I opened an online forum to see if anyone had responded to my private message asking for leads on Ethan back in his hometown. If Ethan was really after the condo, he would definitely try to trick Victoria into legally marrying him. Even though I paid for the condo in full, once it became their joint marital property, a lawsuit would get very complicated. The city was too far from his hometown. Hiring a private investigator now would take time. Posting a paid request for information in their local community was a long shot, but I had to try my luck. Work went smoother than expected. Afterward, Gavin booked a private room, and a few of the partners sat around chatting. A toast, everyone welcome, sincere to the team, and here's to the successful launch of our business here in Crestwood. May our game be a massive hit when it goes live. The steam from the hot pot rose around us, and after a glass of red wine and the sound of my friend's hearty laughter, much of my recent gloom began to lift. Suddenly, I got a call from an unknown number. I glanced at it, assumed it was a spam call, and ignored it, continuing to chat with my friends. A moment later, my phone buzzed with a picture and a text message from the same number. It was a photo of Ethan and the others holding a marriage certificate in the wedding home I had personally decorated. My pupils contracted. The one thing I didn't want to happen had happened. The picture came with a message: "If you want the rest of the info, call this number." I made an excuse to Gavin and the others, returned to the hotel early, and dialed the number. A young voice came through the line. "You'll pay $500 for a lead on Ethan Shaw, Chapter 7. I asked calmly, "Yes, but how can I be sure what you're saying is true? And what if you take the money and don't give me the information?" "Why don't you start by telling me where you got that picture?" On my way back to the hotel, I had unblocked Victoria and Ethan on social media, but neither of them had posted that photo. I still didn't know who this person was or how they got the picture. On my end, I quietly connected my phone to my computer. I had studied programming. Tracing an IP address from a phone wasn't difficult for me. Sure enough, the person on the other end spoke with the swagger of a small-time hoodlum. "None of your business how I got it. I not only have what you want, but I also know you're the ex of his new wife if you transfer the money quickly, and I'm in a good mood. I might tell you a little something about him. Otherwise, I wouldn't mind having a little business chat with him instead. But I'd advise you not to be penny-wise and pound-foolish, buddy." I raised an eyebrow but didn't indulge him. Using the address, I hacked into a nearby security camera and said calmly, "Fine. I already know who you are anyway. You're at an internet cafe on a certain street in a certain city right now. Let's see. Are you the one wearing the black hat and red flip-flops?" I moved the mouse across the screen, watching as the person shot up from their chair and looked around frantically. I could hear his muttered curses over the phone. Intimidation was the best way to deal with punks like him. I softened my tone and said, "Let's do this honestly. As long as you give me what I need, I'll pay you. But if you try to pull a fast one, you can't blame me for what happens next." After a moment, he sent over the rest of the pictures one by one. I learned from the hoodlum that Ethan had racked up high-interest gambling debts back home. He had secretly sold his family's ancestral home behind his parents' back, but it wasn't enough to cover the hole. By the time his parents found out, he had already taken his ID and skipped town. With no source of income, he used his good looks to make a living by scamming women. He would post pictures on a separate private account, which attracted a lot of followers. If someone was willing to pay, he would even sell the women's personal information. Some victims had reported him to the police, but he was always quick to disappear and was never caught. I clicked through the pictures, looking at photo after photo of them together. Each one was dated by Victoria, with a note about her mood that day. The timeline stretched back 5 years. Every pair of sneakers Ethan wore was expensive. I even recognized one pair that I had seen in Victoria's online shopping cart. It was close to my birthday at the time, and I thought it was a surprise she was preparing for me. I was secretly excited for weeks, but on my birthday after midnight, all I received was a measly $5 Venmo transfer. She said she had invested in a new financial product to save for our future kids. She said a simple birthday was fine. Only now did I understand. She wasn't planning for our future at all. She was just spending all my money to keep her dear little brother happy. But seeing all this now didn't stir any emotion in me. After getting what I wanted, I promptly transferred the money to the guy and added, "Let's work together again. You keep an eye on his recent activities. Once I report him and he's arrested, I'll send you another $200. But if he gets tipped off and runs, I'll report you as his accomplice." The hoodlum laughed awkwardly and finally promised me he would monitor Ethan closely. After forwarding the evidence to my lawyer, I called Victoria. She answered instantly, her voice slurring with drunkenness. "Sincere Miller, you finally decided to call me? I've missed you so much these past few days, I realized I can't live without you. Can we not break up, please? When you get back, Ethan and I will apologize to you. Just forgive me this one time. The other day, Mindy was showing off her new designer bag right in front of me, and I was so mad. Can you send me some money? I know you love me the most." My mouth twitched. Victoria was still living in a fantasy world. Fighting back my disgust, I told her when I would be back. After all, the couple was newly married. It would be rude not to prepare a big gift. Chapter 8. When the day came, I arrived on time. The one who opened the door was Ethan. With his hands in his pockets, he leaned lazily against the doorframe, looking every bit the man of the house, and said with a malicious grin, "Smelled trouble and came running, huh? You really are a lapdog. Are you that interested in becoming the third person in our family? I have to say, that bed you picked out, it's incredibly comfortable." I raised an eyebrow and said coolly, "You don't actually think having a marriage certificate gives you a claim to this condo, do you?" At my words, Ethan immediately stood up straight, his eyes darting around nervously. "Sincere, you're back, come on in." Victoria came out of the kitchen wearing an apron. The dining table was covered with food. She lowered her head shyly. "It's my first time cooking all this. I'm not sure if you'll like it." I glanced at the table but didn't expose the fact that the food was clearly takeout. I got straight to the point. "You said you wanted to apologize to me. Let's hear it." Victoria stood frozen, forcing an awkward smile as she fidgeted. "What happened before was my fault. I didn't discuss it with you beforehand, and I was wrong. I apologize, but I only see Ethan as a little brother. Please believe me, you're the one I love. We've been together for 8 years. I can't live without you." Hearing this, I couldn't help but scoff. "You love me, so you want me to be the other man? If you still intend to marry me, don't you know that's bigamy?" Victoria's eyes widened and her face flushed red. "How did you know about the marriage certificate?" "Wait, no, believe me, I'll divorce him as soon as his mother passes away." I didn't reply, simply shifting my gaze to Ethan. The next second, Victoria stepped in front of him. "This has nothing to do with him. I was just trying to help him." Victoria's mouth said she loved me, but her body's actions were far more honest. Just then, the doorbell rang, followed by a series of frantic knocks. I smiled. "Go on, open it. I had some gifts delivered." Hearing this, Victoria's spirits instantly lifted. She thought the designer bag I bought for her had arrived and eagerly ran to the door. "Auntie, what are you doing here? Aren't you in the hospital for a serious illness?" Chapter 9. Beside me, Ethan's face paled and he started to panic. A figure shoved Victoria aside and stormed in. A disheveled-looking woman lunged at Ethan, screaming curses as she clawed at him. "You little bastard, I should never have given birth to you, just go die." Red scratches appeared on Ethan's face. He glared at me fiercely, then, as if realizing something, he shoved his mother away. "Let go of me. If you two weren't so useless, would I have had to resort to gambling?" With that, he made a frantic dash for the door. But several plainclothes police officers appeared, and 2 of them quickly tackled him to the ground. "You heartless, prodigal son. You drove your father to his death. Do you even know that?" Ethan's mother tried to lunge at him again, but was held back by another officer. It all happened so fast that it took Victoria a moment to process everything. "Mrs. Shaw, Ethan is still sick. Why are you hitting him? And weren't you too sick to even get out of bed? What's this about Mr. Shaw being driven to his death?" Ethan's mother looked up numbly and stared at Victoria, asking uncertainly, "Are you Mr. Lynn's girl, Victoria Vaughn?" The next second her expression turned vicious, and she grabbed Victoria by the hair. "You tramp. It's all because of you that worthless boy said he did it all for you. That's why he started gambling and got into so much debt. Why should our house be mortgaged to loan sharks while you get to live comfortably in a nice condo? Give me back my money. Even a fool would have realized something was wrong." Victoria broke free from Martha Shaw's grip and asked Ethan in disbelief, "Your mom is lying, right? You don't have any gambling debts. You just went to start a business, didn't you?" Pinned to the floor, Ethan guiltily lowered his head and said nothing. "Ethan Shaw, where did my money go? Tell me." Victoria lunged at Ethan in a frenzy, while his mother refused to let her go. The three of them started brawling again, and the scene descended back into chaos. I picked up some peanuts from the table and stepped aside to watch the show. Such a brilliant spectacle was truly satisfying to watch. In the end, the police had to forcibly take everyone down to the station. Chapter 10. I was also taken to the police station to give a statement. From the other room I could hear the distinct shouts of Victoria and the others. "Ethan Shaw, you bastard, how dare you lie to me, tramp? Give me back my family's money, or I won't let you go after understanding the whole situation." The officer patted me on the shoulder and filled me in on more details. To fund his gambling addiction, Ethan had been playing both sides. He lied to Victoria about having a terminal illness and lied to his parents, saying he needed a $50,000 bride price to marry Victoria. All the money he got his hands on, he lost at the tables. I was the most innocent person in this whole mess. Now, Ethan's mother was convinced that Victoria had taken the money, while Victoria insisted that Ethan had scammed her out of everything and refused to admit anything. She had truly dug her own grave. But this was all her own doing. When I left the station, Victoria's clothes were torn and she looked utterly defeated. When she saw me, she started crying, saying she had been deceived. But I cut her off. "Victoria, I've already broken up with you. I don't want to get involved in your affairs. The money I gave you before, I don't want it back. But I've already filed a lawsuit with my lawyer for the condo. If you have any decency left, you'll transfer the title back to me as soon as possible. Otherwise, we'll see each other in court." With red-rimmed eyes, Victoria screamed, "Impossible, the condo is in my name, it's mine, what right do you have to take it back?" Then, as if a thought struck her, she sniffled, and her tone softened again. She tugged at my sleeve. "Sincere, I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Let's forget all the unpleasantness and start over. We're supposed to get married in 3 months, aren't we? We haven't even taken our wedding photos yet. I see it clearly now. You're the only one who's truly good to me. I have nothing left now. I can't lose you too." Watching her self-pitying repentance, I laid the truth bare. "I know you regret it. But I also know you're just afraid of losing a personal ATM who does whatever you want, and afraid of losing your life as a princess who never has to do chores. There's no point in talking anymore. If you refuse to cooperate, then wait for the court summons." The lease on my rental had expired before I returned. Since I was planning to move to Crestwood, I hadn't renewed it. I hailed a nearby taxi and went to the nearest hotel. But that night, Victoria called me again. Her voice was terrifyingly low. "Why did you give up the apartment? And your company said you've taken a 2-week leave. Where did you go on your business trip?" I just replied calmly, "I'm planning to start a business in another city, but that has nothing to do with you anymore." But Victoria just laughed. "Start a business, or you found a new, younger girlfriend? So that's why you wanted to break up with me and take back the condo. I see you're just a fickle cheater, Sincere Miller, let me tell you. If you think you can get rid of me that easily, you're dreaming. For 8 years, I ate with you, drank with you, slept with you. That condo is my compensation. If you want to break up with me, you have 3 days to give me another $50,000, otherwise I'll die for you to see." My face darkened. "Victoria." But she had already hung up. I rubbed my temples and called my lawyer. Victoria had lost her mind. I was afraid something unexpected might happen. I needed to be prepared. Sure enough, 3 days later, I was trending online. Because Victoria had jumped off a bridge. Chapter 11. Gavin Price told me about it while I was finalizing my resignation. The video had already gone viral. I opened my phone and saw Victoria sitting on the edge of a bridge, with passers-by constantly trying to talk her down. She was wearing a red wedding dress, caressing the wedding ring on her finger, and crying to the camera of a bystander. "Sincere Miller, you chose a better career and future for yourself, and I don't blame you. But I've always said I only wanted to marry you in this life. I'll go on ahead and wait for you." With that, she jumped. With that one simple sentence, she had nailed me to the pillar of shame. Some netizens mentioned, with varying degrees of accuracy, that I had bought a property for her before the wedding. Then, after a business trip, just 3 months before the wedding, I had called it off and demanded the property back. A mix of true and false information was swirled together, And netizens who didn't know the truth had already concocted hundreds of stories, but in every single one, I was the villain. My face was ashen. I never thought Victoria could be so vicious. She wanted to completely destroy my reputation. My former colleagues were giving me looks of contempt. I typed out a message instructing the marketing accounts I had already contacted to post everything about Victoria and Ethan online. I even spent a large sum on promotion. I wanted everyone to see it. Since she started it, she couldn't blame me for finishing it. The pictures and evidence quickly turned public opinion around, completely overwhelming Victoria's narrative. She tried to go live to play the victim, but the comments were filled with insults, and she was quickly forced to end the stream. In the end, she was detained for 15 days for defamation. My lawyer seized the opportunity to pressure her into signing over the property title. Once everything was settled, I paid no more attention to Victoria. I hired a property manager and moved away from the city. Chapter 8. 5 years later, our game was finally developed, and its sales far exceeded our expectations. The money we each made was enough to buy several houses. On a business trip, I returned to the city to sign the contract for selling the condo. I had put the condo on the market a year ago, but the price wasn't ideal. Recently, the market had picked up, so I quickly sold it. After signing the contract, I hired a cleaner to come and dust the old place. A thin woman wearing a mask arrived shortly after. I was looking down, dealing with some urgent messages, and said, "Hello, please clean the dust off all this furniture. If you want any of these decorations on the wall, you can take them. If not, just throw them out. It might take a few days to clean, so if you need the key, just get it from the property manager." But then I heard an unexpected voice. "Sincere Miller, you're finally back. I saw this condo listed on the platform looking for a cleaner, and I just knew you were back. I had to fight really hard to get this job." I froze for a second. I didn't recognize Victoria at first. I never thought I would see her again like this. I thought we would never cross paths again in this lifetime. The person who used to hate doing chores the most was now working as a cleaner. She looked much more worn out. Her once fair hands were now covered in wrinkles from years of cleaning, and her eyes looked exhausted. Time can wash away anything. Seeing Victoria now, all I felt was a sense of melancholy. She stood across from me, looking at me with a wronged expression, telling me how difficult her life had been these past few years. Because of the defamation incident, Victoria lost her original job. Without the condo, she had to use her savings to rent a small apartment. Later, after Ethan got out of jail after a few months, he and his mother latched onto her completely, since they were legally married. He dropped all pretenses, forcing Victoria to work during the day and come home at night to do their laundry and cook for them. I never realized how hard it is to work and take care of a household at the same time. I haven't been able to save any money all these years, and I haven't bought clothes over $100 or a bag over $1,000 in so long. Of course, when we were together, her salary was only a few thousand, just enough for her own living expenses. All her luxury purchases were funded by my money. To give her a life of comfort, I had pulled countless all-nighters and taken on so many freelance projects, but in the end, none of it could compare to the sweet words of her dear little brother. I nodded occasionally, my mind elsewhere, busy replying to messages from my wife and child. Chapter 9. Victoria unwillingly fidgeted with the hem of her clothes. "Sincere, are you still single? Is there still a chance for us? I've learned how to do housework now. The fact that you didn't sell the condo for so many years must mean you still have feelings for me, right?" My face turned cold, and I cut her off. "I'm married. I have an adorable daughter, and I love them very much. As for the condo, that was just because the housing market had crashed. It's only now that prices have recovered that I could sell it. Don't overthink things. As for you, I hope we never see each other again for the rest of our lives." With that, I turned and left without looking back. The past was in the past. Now I have a perfect, happy family that lights my way home. For the rest of my life, I will walk hand in hand with my family toward a better future.